So we've talked a little bit kind of professional or personally, professionally about 2024. In your view, what have been the biggest technology advances, or the biggest two or three things that you've seen that you're like, just like, wow, obviously one of them has to be AI, something non-AI related, then whatever else. What are a couple of those?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the weird thing is when you follow the AI techs as closely as I do, a year, it's dog years or whatever. So thinking about
Yes.
what's happened in 2024, the biggest thing I guess is I thought that in 2024 we were going to get a huge improvement, just like we did from ChatGPT 3.5 to 4. And I think that OpenAI kind of led us along this path to make us think that this version 5, this massive new version was going to come out. But then they changed pretty early in the year that, well, it's gonna be a while before we have this. So the fact that we didn't have another giant step, it's an unrealistic expectation because this technology is moving so quickly, but they just spoiled us in 23 with the massive jumps in power. And I will say, going to 4.0, there was a lot that was happening under the hood that made 4.0 is a lot more capable than the original like 4 and 4 Turbo were. So that was good, but it was incremental improvement. And then, we didn't get a GPT-5, but we did get this new type of the O1, the reasoner, and some of the other stuff that between Anthropic and OpenAI and even Gemini now, late in the year, catching up on some things. The new thing that I was not expecting at all this year that really surprised me and that I loved was the Notebook LM from Google.
Yeah, I
where
thought
it was
Notebook
making the
LM
yeah.
was really cool the way you could just load up just your documents you wanted to supplement research on this, just that. It's just a nice, almost learning tool. But the cool that it did the podcast, and yeah, I like Notebook LM. That was a fun one.
And the recent iterations of it, you can now interact with those podcast hosts. You can ask them questions
Oh, can you
about the
now? I
data.
didn't know that. I hadn't seen that yet.
Yeah. So Google's, they made a late run late in the year. I don't, I'm again, like we talked about in the last episode, I pay for Gemini only because I just want to see where they are. And I think it will be just like Copilot. I pay for Copilot too. I think they're both going to be insanely useful. Neither of them are yet, but a lot of amazing stuff. And even if technology didn't advance at all, it will take a while because going around and talking to people about this, so many people don't even know the capabilities of the models that are out there now. So you could completely pause advancement and we could spend a couple of years just figuring out all the ways that we can use the technology where it is today. And there's these incremental improvements. A lot of it is UX, but there are things that are going to be, and they're all, Anthropic had some good ideas early in the year. ChatGPT had some ideas, and now Google is doing that with Gemini. And this is with the new changes to Notebook LM. We're starting to see how this interface is going to be more natural. Like think about just the evolution of how we've interacted with our regular computers and regular software over the years. It's just there's incremental gains that are going to happen. So even if nothing big happens, we're still going to see productivity gains and things happen. But a lot of exciting stuff is going to happen in 25. And we'll talk about our predictions, I guess, later in the show. But one thing I missed was I really thought 2024 was going to be the year of AI agents. And the fact that we haven't gotten, I mean, everybody's talking about agents, but nobody's really delivered yet a truly meaningful agent in AI.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, some tools have done a good job of putting something in the platform that you could ask questions of, but it's just not at scale yet. It's not there. You're starting to see it, I think 25, 26, which we'll talk about in a minute. It makes a lot of sense because, yeah, it's been the year of a ton of talk and playing, but you're not seeing companies yet really use agents. Where AI has not gone yet, I know we're getting a little bit to the head. You tell me if you disagree, but it's really truly integrating generative. So ignore machine learning, RPA, other, AI. Generative AI really haven't been able to naturally integrate in our workflow yet. The closest we have is some of the asking questions. And, I've seen some tools that, hey, you can ask it, it'll automatically write up the variants for different lines right in your commentary. That's the starting of getting in your workflow. So you're seeing little bits, but ones where it prompts you, you get an email saying, hey, looks like these things are missing for month end. Do you want me to use last month's accrual? And starting to smart and thinking for us and being proactive. That's really when I think it's integrated in the workflow. And we're just touching the surface on that in my mind.
Yeah, and a lot of that is the difficulty, so the LLMs themselves, they don't have a memory, and they don't, so, you can use RAG and be able to have, these documents that it refers to as sort of a memory. But then there's also how, since it doesn't have its own memory, it has to access data. It can be unstructured data or structured data or whatever, but it has to know where to go to get it. It has to know how to get it. It has to know your database schema and all that. So really, if you're not integrated directly in, like, so for the LLM to be able to know where to get the information and for you to not have to come out of your workflow and go to this web-based tool, I do think that what we're going to see, and I don't think it'll happen in 25, but if you think about SaaS, all the ERPs out there and all the big software products that we all use, if you think about it, they are essentially just massive databases with a nice skin on them that lets you interact with the data within the database. Imagine when we get a little bit further with generative AI, and it doesn't matter. It's almost like, dashboards are huge, but it doesn't matter what the dashboard is. It doesn't matter what the interface is. It's when you have this tool that you can go just get whatever data and it'll display it however you want, that's right in the moment. And that's where you're going to start seeing some huge gains, but that's not going to happen overnight. So, but you know what I mean?
I do. So a couple things for me in 24 that I haven't had to dig in as much as I'd like, that I think are really interesting. And I'll go with some different ones than you, even though I could talk about some of those. So one is I just saw that I thought was really interesting. Google just did a weather forecasting tool that they released that was more accurate than any weather forecasting tool out there. And they're using a method to take all the different tools together in the way they've built the AI. It had like a 98% accuracy 2 weeks out on weather. It was higher than any method used. And so I thought that was really interesting. And where that excited me is if they're getting that good with weather, take that type of technology and those type of processes and the statistical modeling and the AI they're using, and start applying that to business forecasting, right? Because it's coming. And I think it'll be really interesting. The reality is machines, if there's external things that we're not aware of, pieces we can layer in that make our forecast a lot more accurate outside of the things we have to layer in, the new product, the things we know about that the companies, someone they're going to acquire or whatever, I think they can be a lot more accurate, right? We already see that historically, many of them are. But I think things like that. So that one has to be really exciting. I don't know if you saw that from Google, but there was a report about their weather tool that was really accurate.
Yeah, I did see that. And my my first thought was, well, that's great, especially if we are actually going to defund NOAA and the National Weather Service and all that. It'll be good that there will be a way that we can still get our weather. Thanks, Google.